when I learned that Nelly and Hugo Bauer had a conversation. I'm hesitating who to confess to. As a result, he turned his head to see the two of them in the stairwell. One pinched the other's neck, and the other pressed against the other's legs. That warmth is almost overflowing the stairwell. Okay. As a perennial beauty lover, I covered my face and fled with a broken heart. That night, I went to a nightclub to spend gold coins and order male models to soothe my soul. Just when I was happily sexy back with a handsome little guy, suddenly, I heard my dad's angry voice. Una Elsie, what are you doing? No way. How can my father, a strict wife, have the opportunity to come here? I thought I had misheard, and continued to pour wine on the male model's shirt with a smile, leaving him to show his muscles. As a result, my dad's anger was even louder. Una Elsie. The voice was so close that it seemed to be right in my ears. I turned my head in confusion. Nelly and Hugo Bauer stood beside me with cold faces, and Nelly's phone in his hand was a video call from my dad. His face twitched with anger. No, you too. My eyes widened in a second. I'll admit that I made a noise when I ran away, but am I the kind of person who casually shares other people's romances around? In order not to expose me as gay, report me directly. Until I was escorted to the car, I was blindfolded. In the car, they sat on either side of me, close to me. This nanny car is very big, but if someone goes to sit in the passenger seat, they are afraid that I will run away and put me in the middle. Una Elsie, I'm so disappointed in you, said Nelly. I should say that. You have two of our top handsome guys by your side. That kind of person, can you still look at? The abs are estimated to be whole. Hugo Bauer was heartbroken. Yes, I couldn't see it, but who let you digest it internally? The next second, they grabbed my hand and pressed it against their abs. Yes, what is this operation? Because it's gay, you don't have to worry about intimate contact between men and women, right? For some reason, I feel a little sad when it feels good. I'm sad that I can't eat this kind of superlative. It's a little easy to touch. Although it's sad, but it's still pinched again. Nelly snorted. I was about to turn my head to look. Hugo Bauer grabbed me forcefully. No. Why is he snorting? It must have been you who touched him more vigorously. You've got to touch me like that, too. It's not Big Brother. What kind of love is this between new couples? Am I also a part of your play? And he's pretending. And his usual muffled humming is not this voice at all. My upswing has been shattered again. So what kind of situation can Hugo Bauer hear Nelly snort? Could it be that when the two of them fought? Just look at the intimacy in the stairwell, and it doesn't look like a relationship that can fight. If not, then all that's left is. I immediately withdrew my hand. Since I can't have it, don't touch it, otherwise I will regret not being able to meet such a good one in the future. When the time comes, I won't be happy to touch the male model. Tell me that when I was chasing your mother, I blushed when I looked at her, and then I talked for 3 months, and I didn't even dare to hold hands. Look at your dashing appearance in the nightclub again. Do you know that you are going to be sentenced to hooliganism? I don't have my innocent demeanor at all. You treat people like that, you can't be responsible. My dad looked at me bitterly, and hated that iron could not be made of steel. When he spoke the first 2 paragraphs, Nelly and Hugo Bauer agreed. But when my dad's last sentence came out, the smiles on their faces disappeared inexplicably, and their waists became more and more straight. Dad, cough, uncle, I don't know how complicated the life of a man in that occasion is. There is no male virtue. Una Elsie can't grasp it. Yes, yes, on the way back, Una Elsie touched my abs and pinched them. Can you be responsible for me? Mine has been touched, and you have to be responsible for me. At that time, I was still curious about why they were competing to say this. It couldn't be that I misunderstood. They actually liked me to compete for fame, right? As a result, before I could be shy, my dad cut off my living expenses with a phone call, and sent me to the countryside to break corn. That's when I finally understood their sinister intentions, to drive me away so that no one would know about their relationship. Hello, good intentions. Before I could resist and shout out about their relationship, I was stuffed into the car with my luggage, and got on the bus back to my hometown. My dad said that I have so much energy, so let's go to the field and break corn. One at a time is not enough. I have to play 3 at the same time. There is a lot of corn in the field, and I want to pick up a few of them. Before I was pulled away, I saw the shocked faces of Nelly and Hugo Bauer. It's got you. You two ruthless people, I will never forgive you. On the first day in the countryside, I slept until 12 o'clock at noon. Thinking about breaking corn also has to break momentum. To take the aura of the goddess of revenge on the internet, not only did I draw a full makeup, but I also deliberately chose a floor outfit. So at 14 o'clock, the hottest day of the day, you can see a woman on the ground with eyes covered and her movements comparable to that of a zombie. The farmer brothers and sisters who passed by whispered, "Hey, what do you see that baby does? There's a show on the ground. Don't care. Maybe it's a trend in the city. It's very fashionable." Oh, I just saw her break too slowly, and her movements were like dancing ballet. My face was flushed, and the next day I got up early to change clothes with them, and diligently learned how to break corn. A week later, I was as black as a foreign friend. There are also bubbles on my hands, and my heart is full of anger, said Nelly. Hugo Bauer, I remember you both. You guys are blowing air conditioners in the city and falling in love. And I'm doing coolies here, said Sao arrived. And 2 days later, I was struggling to break corn in the field. A familiar voice sounded behind me. Hello, you know where I Suna Elsie? I turned my head and looked at Nelly and Hugo Bauer, fully equipped, and I was so angry that I wanted to punch them. Nelly was looking down at me with a sincere face, waiting for me to answer. I ripped off the visor that blocked half of my face. Keep your eyes open and see who your aunt is. Una Elsie. What does their voice mean inexplicably? I looked at our color difference, and became even more angry. Woo. Why did you become so dark? Wrong baby. Nelly touched my face in distress. The next second, he was squeezed away by Hugo Bauer, who grabbed my hand with a look of pity. The corn is bad, bullying our baby's delicate hands. Why don't you two try the yin and yang weirdness in front of me again? I shook them off. Don't be pretend. Who am I doing this for? What? You're here to break it for me. Half a minute later, I was lying in a sun lounge with a drink in my hand, Una Elsie in my hand, and watched the 2 unlucky eggs in the field break the corn. They say they have been deeply aware of their mistakes, and as long as I don't get angry, the amount of tasks they pack every day, I'm still going to be angry. But in order not to work, I pretend not to be angry. 3 minutes later, I realized something was wrong. It's not that they realize that they are wrong, it's that the city can't accommodate them, and they come here to play the excitement. First, Hugo Bauer's face turned red, and his mouth opened slightly. It's hot. Then he quickly took off his quick-drying suit, revealing his 8-pack abs. That's when I realized he was wearing low-rise pants. The sweat on your body slowly slides from your well-defined abdomen to your crotch and then disappears, as if to lure you to explore. Nelly eats so well. I wiped my saliva and thought with jealousy. Before I could finish reading it, there was a tearing sound from there, and when I turned my head, I found that Nelly's shirt was torn, looming mermaid line, revealing a sense of secret seduction. How can I be so stupid? How did I accidentally let the corn stalks tear my shirt? And it seems that I can only continue to work like this. He pretentiously covered his mouth in surprise, but his eyes quietly glanced at me. I believe your 5-figure shirt was torn by soft corn stalks. The fingerprint creases left by tearing your shirt haven't healed yet. Next, Hugo Bauer and Nelly not only made frequent eye contact, but also often bumped into each other. This eyebrow flirting, playful. I smacked my lips and looked for excitement as the sleeping husband character in Tan Maiwan. Right. I can't even drink anymore. And since you don't mind, what do I mind? If you're looking for excitement, you're going to be thrilled to the end. So the next time they were about to collide, I plugged in the middle of them. I'll have one in one hand. The 2 of them were red-faced, and they were still reluctant to give up when my hands left. Oh, sure enough, they have some inexplicable fetishes, and I, as the insider of their relationship, was chosen. Baby, you left an extra red mark on him, and you have to make up for it for me, Hugo Bauer said in a hoarse voice. I slapped him in the face, and it was fine, and I made up for it. On that day, I set a record for the most corn broken after going to the countryside. When I returned to my country bungalow in the evening, I leaned on the sofa and searched. What does it mean that little couples always like to show affection in front of others? What should I do if gay men always let me participate in their play? I even cautiously made a post at the end. Little couples always like me to join. Do they like me? The replies in the comment area are almost crazy. Nothing more than a few points. Is it possible that you are their Steve? The emotional glue. It's also possible that they want to show off, and don't want to, can't make it public. Thinking of their identities. If it was revealed that homosexuality might cause a sensation, I silently gave the last one a thumbs up. This home is where my dad lived when he was a child. After he was developed, he took my grandparents to the villa and settled. It has been vacant and has not been repaired, so the facilities are very basic. I could only watch Nelly and Hugo Bauer go to the boiler. Then they smeared each other's ashes on each other's faces, even poked to step on each other's snow-white sneakers. Oh, the trick between the little couple really makes me angry. No more. I stomped on a piece of firewood and turned back to my room. The more I looked at it, the more heartbroken I became. Una Elsie, why don't you eat it? Una Elsie, I made your favorite food. Try it. Two voices rang out behind me, and I stumbled. It hurts. It hurts. A tear the size of a bean is about to roll down. Is there anything more painful than being able to see and not be able to eat? At night, I lay in bed tossing and turning, and couldn't sleep. Hungry, so hungry. Dead mouth. What can you do if you don't eat all night? 3 minutes later, I put on my slippers and opened the door. As I walked through the living room, I heard a suspicious voice coming from Nelly and Hugo Bauer's room. An old house with no soundproof walls. After a shameful hesitation, I turned a corner. SHHH. Why don't you just let her in and see what you look like? Ugly. Nelly. Hey, Hugo Bauer. What are you clipping? Don't foul with tools. You have to fight it out tonight. Do you dare to do it again? Hey, who's afraid of whom? I'm afraid that you'll be made to cry by me then. Heavy gasps and crashing sounds were heard. Can't wait. Am I a dead man? In my house. Do this kind of thing. I walked over and knocked the door. It's noisy. After a chill in the room, Nelly came and opened the door. He still had speckled red marks on his arms, and when I looked into the room, the corners of Hugo Bauer's mouth were broken and swollen. Wait, what does Hugo Bauer have in his hands? Is it a Tom's? You guys had a really good time. Look at their messy clothes and breathing as they try to calm down. I choked up. No, I can't go back, and I won't let people sleep. It's all your fault. Didn't you make it quiet? Una Elsie was angry. Why do you blame me? Who provoked me first? It's annoying to look at you. Tell me again. Believe it or not, the next second, a pillow was thrown over, and both of them were silent. Late at night, I squatted in the firewood room with a bowl and devoured it, and the bibimbap with tears was delicious. Salty. After eating, I dialed my dad's video call. As soon as he connected, all he saw was my ugly messy hair and red and swollen eyelids, and then hung up in seconds. I didn't give up and hit another one, and he picked it up tremblingly. Girl, you take it easy. What kind of look is this, in the middle of the night? I looked at the familiar face, thinking of the grievances I had suffered in the past few days, and tears flowed down 3,000 feet. What's the matter? Who bullied you? My dad was so anxious that he woke up my mom, and the two of them watched me cry together. I've come to my senses, and I've broken off love from now on. Last of your line. Woo woo woo. I hate it so much. Why? I'm so kind, cute and beautiful, and I ended up doing this to me. Oh, implying that I'm lonely for the rest of my life. Ha 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 ha. Do you think I'm going to give in? Ha ha ha. You have it kind. I took it. I really obeyed. My parents were anxious after watching me talk to myself for 3 minutes and didn't understand the situation. And my mother was so angry that she beat my dad. Una Elsie likes to watch handsome guys. You have to go to the countryside to exercise her. If she has 3 long and 2 short, I won't finish with you. Hurry up. You can pick it up now. Una Elsie, take your time. Daddy will go over right away. Late night rainy night Maybach. Down a chubby man. Oh, it's my dad. He was relieved when he eagerly checked that I wasn't hurt. Nelly and Hugo Bauer heard the noise coming out of the room. When I saw them, They cried even harder, and it was heartbreaking. My dad had to stuff me into the car and say hello to them himself. As soon as I got in the car, I heard him talking to his secretary on the phone. Hey, James, you're going to find out what's going on in the countryside these days. I don't think it's normal for all three children, especially the two boys from the Nelly and Bauer families, covered in wounds. Dear, I gritted my teeth in the back. My dad didn't hear clearly, so he gave me a reassuring look and continued the call, telling me to rest first and go home and sleep immediately. I gritted my teeth and sent a message to my cousin Kristen. Elsie, sister, send me the cheats that you have to attract super love brains. The other party replied with a question mark in seconds, and sent a voice half a second later. You still need this? Don't you have two around you? She cut off before she could finish speaking. Listen to the sound of rock music over there. I guessed on my toes that she must have snuck out and been caught by Relap Nelly. As soon as she opened her new book, Relap Nelly went on full alert, fidgeting at the slightest hint of the wind, laughing to death. I laughed at him at the time. Now I just want to say that I want to ask God for a love brain boyfriend. When I got home, my parents immediately arranged for a doctor to check my body. Seeing that I was still languishing every day, I was even given an exorcism ritual for 3 days. In the end, Renata Ulysses couldn't stand it, so she came to my house to take a look at me and leisurely told my parents that she could cure me. You, a typical handsome guy deprivation. Let's go. Sister will take you to cure. Renata Ulysses looked at me, with her hands folded around her chest. I rolled over blankly. Don't bother if your heart is dead. 3 hours later, I sat in the box and smiled from ear to ear. Sister, if you don't tell me about this kind of good place early, I hate it. Sure enough, handsome guys are not circulating in the market, and the peerless handsome guys have to match the code to see them. It's a bit worse than Sid Nelly and Hugo Bauer, but it's enough. It's better to be young and clingy, and the most important thing is to like girls. Don't thank me. Your sister Kristen's card, when she wrote the article on the female overlord and the male canary, the place where ordinary people couldn't find it. Oh, she was still here to save the dust. I think how chic I was back then, but now I have to go home at 10 o'clock in the evening, and if I don't go home, the phone call will come. TSK. No matter how successful a career man is in love, he becomes a small man. Renata Ulysses lit a cigarette and slowly exhaled the smoke ring. After a few glasses of wine, I watched Sister Renata Ulysses open her heart. Do you say that our family's peach blossom luck is all on my sister? Why is she chic before marriage, and there is a sticky spirit after marriage, and she has been lonely and widowed with me for more than 20 years. 22 years. I haven't even kissed a man's mouth. Do you say failure or failure? How can there be a little bit of a big woman's demeanor? Am I really bad? Not even someone who likes me and confesses to me. The male model on the side leaned over. His warm breath sprayed on my neck, and his wet eyes looked at me. Sister, I like you. At that time, I pushed him away, saying that it was another price. Renata Ulysses looked at me with a smirk. Do you remember the senior who was crazy in the lab at the university, and took the time to find you for dinner, braved the rain to deliver materials to you, and immediately rushed to your side with a phone call, and wanted to take you to send your papers? Oh, I guess he saw my talent, and wanted to pull me into their lab, as a coolie to meet the enrollment quota ahead of schedule. When he wanted to tie me to their lab with a published paper, I blocked me, laughed to death. You don't look at your transcript. That paper was all written and waiting to be published. Later, on the basketball court, a center accidentally bumped into you after the game, and they blushed and said that they would invite you to dinner and apologize. What did you say? I thought about it for a moment. At that time, he hit my shoulder with a ball, and it hurt, so I refused his invitation to dinner and let him. Money. How can I offset my medical expenses with a meal? Renata Ulysses choked speechlessly, and then asked, when I was in high school, your class of students blushed and asked if you wanted to walk back together home. What do you say? I said I don't play with him anymore. I'm so tired from class, and I don't take the car and walk after school. It's stupid to learn. That's 1 kilometer away. The male models next to him were silent, and Renata Ulysses took a sip of wine. Those two people around you are so guarded that they can't stand to confess to you. As a result, you choked yourself. Cupid's arrows were smoking, and you blocked it while saying, "Oh, why don't you give me love?" So, they liked me at the time, so why don't you just say it? I had to guess. I misunderstood. I frowned. So, now tell me why you're uncomfortable. Renata Ulysses raised an eyebrow. I hesitated, but I still didn't say anything. After all, I don't want to make a big deal about romances and sexual orientations that others don't want to announce. Young, although they do have a bit of a hate. I hate that they don't like me. After having fun with Renata Ulysses, she drove me home. My parents looked at my energetic appearance and nodded in satisfaction, telling me to hang out with Renata Ulysses more in the future. I thought of the male model on Sexy Back, blushing and slipping back to the room. As soon as I entered the room, a ding message sound came from my mobile phone. I looked down and noticed a picture of me in my private clubhouse. Una Elsie, you don't want your parents to know you're there, do you? Looking at the mobile phone number that sent the message, my face darkened. Don't worry about me. My dad has now supported me to play more. The other party replied in seconds. How is that possible? Isn't your uncle very strict with you? I rolled my eyes speechlessly. What do you want to do? I want to fall in love with you. I didn't even mention it in one breath. Hugo Bauer, you forgot to cut the number. Right. Do you know that Nelly is like that? Men and women eat you. Damn. The other party disappeared after sending this message. He definitely didn't expect that in this era when everyone doesn't memorize mobile phone numbers. I still carry it, and I can't see the bright remarks and big characters. The next day, I started the mode of going to the mall to buy and buy. The male model who added that day was about to have a birthday, suggesting that I give a gift. It was a casual affair and I decided to buy all the gifts today. What tie and suit are all a set, after all, wearing it on him. The beauty is in my heart. Anyway, it is for me to appreciate. As I passed by the stairwell, I saw Nelly standing in the doorway, looking at each other for a second. I remembered the message sent by Hugo Bauer last night. I was inexplicably empty-hearted. There was no interest, and I didn't take the initiative to confess. What were I afraid of? Una Elsie Nelly waved at me, and strode over to me. I was so anxious that I tripped on my left foot, and didn't have time to run away with my right foot. Why do you look like that? I have something to tell you. Nelly pulled me to the corner of the stairwell. The atmosphere was similar to the warm scene one bumped into them that day. I looked straight up at the ceiling, and it was a ceiling. Una Elsie, don't you have anything to say to me? I shuddered. Say what? It's Hugo Bauer. He confessed to me. You have to find him. Obviously I didn't do anything wrong. What is this broken leg shaking? Hugo Bauer confessed to you. Nelly's voice was low for a second. His eyes glazed over. You agreed? No. I waved my hands like crazy. I don't do that kind of thing. Woo. Nelly breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Hugo Bauer is a big-tailed wolf. It's better to be in a relationship with me. What did you say? I'm not good at ear. No way. Why not? Nelly's voice sounded aggrieved, and stubbornly held me back. After a while, he glanced at the gift I had bought in the corner. Hugo Bauer can't do it, and I can't do it either. You have a new dog, and buy him clothes. I love it. I couldn't stand his yin and yang weirdness, so I pushed him away, and walked out. Una Elsie. Nelly pulled me in, her tone humble. Look at me. I can be in outer room. To be honest, I'm impressed. And what about Hugo Bauer? If you want, we'll serve you together. Nelly gritted his teeth. But I can't accept your relationship. If you accept me, I'll try to accept that bastard Hugo Bauer thing, and stop beating him. Beat? What beating? By the way, Una Elsie, why did you leave crying that day? Did I and Hugo Bauer beat each other and scared you? That's what I wanted to ask you about today. Hugo Bauer was so bad that I only gave him a punch in the corner of the mouth, and he chased after me, in the arm with the tongs. Only, I think you're jealous of my beauty, and want to squeeze out your face. I'm clipping you all light. Hugo Bauer's mournful voice rang out. Una Elsie, you can't be partial. You have to treat everyone equally. If you talk to him, you have to talk to me. I turned my head and saw that Hugo Bauer had come at some point. His eyes red like an abandoned puppy. 10 minutes later, the three of us looked at each other inside Starbucks. You didn't talk about it. I cleared my throat and asked cautiously. Talk. And him. Dirty things go away. The two reacted violently at the same time, eager to be 800 meters away from each other. So what are you doing in the stairwell? You touch his neck. He rubs your leg. Don't tell me it's pure brotherhood. Nelly touched his nose. Let me state that I'm not a violent person. And second, I pinched him by the neck and didn't touch him. Hugo Bauer blinked. He did it first. I just tripped and kicked him with my legs. I'm very good. You undress in the field, and you look at each other? Nelly got goosebumps in disgust. Flirtation. I want to stare at him. He's a scheming man who works hard. What kind of clothes? And specially matched with low-waisted pants. Who is a good man to do this? Hugo Bauer looked innocent. Huh? But I'm really hot. I'm thinking too much. And you're deliberately tearing your shirt to the real thing. You flirt while you're cooking. No, baby. I just think he deliberately seduced you with his face, and wanted to dirty him with ash. I'm the best looking, they said in unison. And what were you doing in the house that night? Nelly puffed up. Oh, there's only one bed in that room. I let him sleep on the floor. He let me sleep on the floor, combined with the conflict of the day. And then we fought, Hugo Bauer added. The crisis was over, and my heart was alive again. The dilemma at hand is, who to talk to? No. Who do you talk to first? Finally I swallowed. Can we be together? Good news, I have two superb beautiful men. The bad news, the waist is a little tired. Worse news, they secretly stumbled on each other. For example, the night before, when Nelly's porridge was inexplicably overloaded with mustard, and when his face was so spicy that his face was flushed, Hugo Bauer gently pressed it to my waist. Elsie, you see he looks so ugly. He won't be allowed to go to bed tonight. You'll be uncomfortable with his hot mouth. Another example is that last night, Hugo Bauer was locked out of the villa. Nelly, you have the ability to change the password. You have the ability to open the door. You're so shameless to play such a trick. Nelly kissed me as she dialed the property's number. Hey, there's a crazy guy on my doorstep who keeps yelling at me with a bullhorn. You guys deal with it. As for now, I'm going home and trembling with anger at the cars in the garage where they have their tires torn at each other. In the end, I couldn't bear it anymore, and prepared 3 chapters of legislation. First, property must not be damaged. Second, don't hit the other person in the face. Thirdly, can 2 people be scheduled to leave work? Time is too tight, really tiring. As a result, the gift I bought for the male model was somewhere to be turned over, and the 2 of them angrily wanted to give it back to me. Reminiscences. It's really SOS. End of full text. Nelly, I'm ready to confess to Elsie tonight. Carefully groomed hair, understated men's fragrances, romantic candlelit dinners, luxurious bouquets. It's all in control. As a result, I ran into the same sassy Hugo Bauer at the elevator door of the Elsie company, and the alarm went off in my head. What are you going to do? I asked coldly. Hugo Bauer glanced at me, ripped off the mask of her effeminate innocence in front of Elsie, and looked arrogant. I'll do whatever you want. I silently calculated in my heart. The odds of winning are 5 to 5. If Elsie refuses, I'll be left as a junior. In the elevator, the 2 of us pretended to be polite. Yin and yang, yin and yang. My fists clenched unconsciously. Exiting the elevator door, we looked at each other, put the gift in our hands to the secretariat, and then ran to the stairwell. Oh, the imitates me. Why do you wear this perfume too? What? You've patented this perfume. Elsie squirts if she likes me. Squirt squirt. I squirted all over from the inside out. I was arguing, and my hand unconsciously pinched him. His leg also kicked me hard and unceremoniously. Then there was a scream from behind. We turned around and watched Elsie cover her face and run away. Oops. Forgetting that her secretary would have told her we were coming, we both went after it. As a result, Hugo Bauer, a scheming man, tripped me and tried to catch up with Elsie first. How could I let him succeed? I snapped and pushed him, pushing him to stumble. When we meet Elsie again, she's flirting with a male model. Angry. Is it easy for a male model to touch me? But if I stop it, will she lower her opinion of me? Hugo Bauer muttered behind my back. By the way, I need to call my uncle so I don't have to be a bad guy, and I can still get extra points from my uncle. Hey. Can I let you get the first shot? I made a video call and walked over to Una Elsie, completely oblivious to Hugo Bauer's smug smile. I later found out that Hugo Bauer did it on purpose, and Una Elsie was so angry when she saw my video call. Later, Hugo Bauer also stuck to Una Elsie and said that he had advised me not to call and complain at the time, but I had to listen. He himself was different from those vulgar men. And what was wrong with big women finding some happiness? I really don't know who received the news that Una Elsie was going to a private club with Renata Ulysses. Afterwards, I went to beat up the male models ordered by Una Elsie. Why is it going this way? How can uncle send my dear Una Elsie to the countryside to break corn? Although you are my dad in the future, I can't scold you, but how can my poor Una Elsie work so hard? That night I drove to follow. As a result, Hugo Bauer's dog thing planted mines for my company, so I had to deal with it urgently. But fortunately, I also buried a mine for his company. As a result, I was tripped up for a few hours, and when I went back to find Una Elsie's whereabouts, I couldn't find it. We went to ask my uncle, and he looked serious. No, she must be taught a long lesson, and none of you can help. She. Woo woo woo, don't he? You return my fragrant wife. Finally, after a few turnarounds, we finally found out which country it was. Although I didn't want to, I went with Hugo Bauer, and the two of them were always stronger. In a week and a half, Una Elsie has tanned so much. I was so distressed that I thought about helping her do all the work. Wasn't it just breaking corn? As long as she's happy to break me. Just as I was singing in my heart, I feel sorry for your pain. I want to solve it for you, Tilda. Hugo Bauer just took off his clothes over there. Cheap man, dare to play small tricks. I was so angry that I tore my clothes with my bare hands. Isn't it just sexy? When who won't be? When I went back to cook, I looked at Hugo Bauer's deliberately exposed collarbone. My anger rises from my heart, and I call you a bag, and I will wipe all the ashes on you. Then, Una Elsie seemed a little angry at seeing that we didn't deal with us. She can't be distressed about Hugo Bauer. Right, but Hugo Bauer bullied me too. Una Elsie didn't eat at night, and I was so distressed. I blame Hugo Bauer. If he hadn't made trouble, Una Elsie wouldn't have been angry. Hugo Bauer glared angrily and scolded me for not blaming others for fighting for it, if I don't have the means, and if I have the ability to study on my own. As we talked, we were going to do it again, and he was a bad man, who secretly hid the tongs. Think you don't love me if you damage my appearance, Una Elsie. This time she was taken home crying. When it's over, she'll never like me again. Hugo Bauer looked at the distant Maybach, and patted me on the shoulder. Let's truce first. No one is allowed to disturb Una Elsie. Let her slow down first. I believed it, and I specially signed up for 1v1 chasing my wife, so I can study with peace of mind. As a result, Hugo Bauer secretly went behind my back to confess. Okay, well, while I'm not here to steal home. Fortunately, Una Elsie didn't say yes to him, so I decisively confessed. Doesn't his failure imply that I will succeed? Una Elsie turned me down as well, and I looked at the men's items she bought, and I couldn't believe she had a dog outside. I gritted my teeth and made a suggestion that I could do the outer room. Una Elsie hesitated, and Hugo Bauer came out of nowhere. Later I learned that Una Elsie was crying because she had misunderstood me and Hugo Bauer. I was relieved because she said she liked me. Oh, and she also said she liked Hugo Bauer's dog, too. I smiled on my face, and I was ready to make a witch doll for Hugo Bauer. Dare to rob me? Stab you. Stab you. Hugo Bauer, the talent of pretending to be weak is born with it, and if you don't have it, you won't have it. What is acquired is not the same as what is acquired. Nelly is the kind of person who has no talent, and only knows that silly likes Una Elsie. When I was at a nightclub, I made a little trick and he made a phone call. Laughed to death. How could I say such a good thing? I thought he would eat a trench and grow wise. As a result, I told him that after the truce, he really believed. I also went to sign up for that kind of liar emotional class, and died of laughter. He learns. By the time he finished, I was already talking to Una Elsie. The plan went wrong. How did Nelly confess to Una Elsie too? I was so angry that I drank a few glasses of bilwochun to regain my strength. It doesn't matter. The main room must have the bearing of the main room. What I have is the means to hook up Una Elsie. And the group of dogs outside, I'll clean them up one by one. An unknown male model. Why am I the only one who was beaten? What do you mean by saving the wind and dust? I haven't received my birthday present yet, and I didn't do anything, just a little hand. A certain vinegar jar came and made trouble. Hugo Bauer, isn't it enough to hold a hand? What else do you want to do? Male model, tearful. JPG, I'm honest. Beg to be spared. Una Elsie extra. My waist is so sore. It's really a daily trouble. The end.